We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Get trained as an IT professional from the comfort of your home. Dynamic Tech Academy gives you a unique opportunity through our 6-month program, during which you learn skills to transition to being a full-time IT professional. Over 80% of our students have no prior IT background, yet the vast majority of them land jobs a month after they start applying. Our ultimate goal is to reach 100% student placement, so we work with every student until he or she gets a job. Upon successful completion of the course, we will give you a resume, interview preps, one-on-one coaching from experienced instructors, and job placement assistance. Within this course, you get more than 300 hours of theories combined with real-world applications and practical skills you can apply on day one on your job. At the end of the program, our students can be certified as Red Hat Systems Administrator, AWS Cloud Engineer, AWS Security Specialist. Visit our website at www.dynamictechacademy.com to register.
Good evening, fellow Ambazonians. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, our people at the home front. It is exactly 8 minutes after 9 p.m. in Abakwa Town, Manu, and in the entire territory of the nation of Ambazonia. This is exclusive discussion with Tarh Paddy King, and today we'll be looking at the winning phase, Award 22 or Award 2023 or Award 23, neutralizing Franco-Cameroon geopolitical and military strongholds permanently. You would have seen the press release from the Department of Finance and Resource Mobilization under the direct leadership of Ni Joe, giving or illustrating the new concept of the draft that will be beginning this same time next week, Saturday, the 25th. It is imperative that Ambazonians get to see reasons why they would have to unwaveringly participate in this draft. And that's why we decided this program, this educational program, is necessary. The president has a new framework. The interim government is drafting the 3 zones of Amazonia. I'm talking about the Savannah zone, the Midland, and the Atlantic. What is actually the concept behind it? Is it just about shared governance or taking some responsibilities from LGAs and counties? What is behind it? How is it instrumental in our crusade to neutralize all colonial vestiges in our homeland? We'll be looking into that. In 2016, we discovered that even our lawyers and teachers could not speak. It was a new normal in our national territory for over 6 decades for us to be beaten, maimed by colonial talks. We couldn't even speak in our own country. It was just a new normal. And then you would want to ask the rhetorical question, how did we get there? How did we get to that point? Prior to 1961, we were an autonomous, a sovereign territory that had self-governed herself for close to a decade. We had a democratic system. In fact, the first democracy in Africa was the former British Southern Cameroons. But when the colonial president Amado Ayejo and his thugs invaded our national territory, what the first thing they did was to disarm, unarm our people. Cruel disarmament was done to a people who had an armed force. We had a mobile wing police that was disappeared. To execute their project, they knew that working on our psychology, tainting our education, sabotaging our cultural diversity was an eminent strategy. And that is how the genocide, cultural genocide started. We're given new names. They called us the Northwest and the Southwest. From provinces, they later on called us regions. They will beat us any day we attempt to call ourselves what we are. Any given opportunity that we decided that we will call ourselves Southern Cameroons, we're detained. In fact, Barrister Agbo Bala Felix went into jail for close to 8 months because he spoke about federation and pronounced the word Southern Cameroons on TV. The Bulu Beti Esingang mafia cartel in Yaoundé could not take it. They had to go after him and got him compromised. The number one strategy of Franco-Cameroon, which is a subset of Francoafrique, is to manipulate and to intimidate. They had to change our framework. What I call the Northwest-Southwest dichotomy was a unique strategy employed by these criminals to divide us apart. They wanted us to think and to act differently. They would engage our brothers to call us Kamnogos. That is what they did. Prior to that time, we were one people, undivided. We stood as one man and departed from the Enugu House of Representatives. As one man, we came to Boya and built a state, a sovereign state that had democratic values. How did we get here? Where are we now? And where are we going to? Some Bulus or the cabal in Yaoundé are still assuming that we are their priceless possession, and therefore they will do with us whatever pleases them. We've seen them call us kafar, rats. We have also seen them tell us in our face that we are 2 cubes of sugar. My question is, what gave Cameroon the audacity to look at the people who are close to 8 million and to tell them that within a week they will disappear them? What gave them that audacity? Of course, they had in motion the advanced phase, a strategy that was going to make us powerless and liable to annihilation. At the verge of a time when they were about accomplishing it, President Biya declared war on us, and his military told us that we will be disappeared in less than no time. Unfortunately for them, the decades had trained men and women, and our generation had evolved to what we call today the never again generation that cannot be intimidated by no fish jelly or bull, jack and bill, pepper tigers in Yaoundé. It was not just a statement, It was an act of prophecy when Weber stood in their colonial assembly to tell them that even a combination of the French army with your army will not stop us. Less than 7 years later, this is now coming into reality that we are unstoppable. And the movement stays on. Now we're getting into a new phase. When the war was escalated in 2018, we saw Amazonian restoration forces, men and women willfully, voluntarily picking up weapons to go after colonial forces multiplied. It's been from my trip to Boya, Lavastorm 1, 2, 3, draft 1, 2, 3. And this time, the draft is taking a new turn, a better turn. Our litmus for that new example of the draft was the month of January. After all has been done from within our midst, internal, external, to stop us, we're gaining momentum. Every LGA and county is now responding. We now see popcorns again like never before. And we're getting assurance that the things that will be happening in the days ahead have never happened. That's what Amazonia is anticipating. And that's the focal point of our discussion this evening. Right after the break, I will bring you Barrister Fu Johnson and Barrister Tim Beseha for us to decode. Stay tuned.
Conflict in Anglophone Cameroon rumbles on. In just the last few days, there have been reports of separatist fighters and workers for a state-owned company being killed and young men arbitrarily arrested, leading to protest. The war broke out over 5 years ago, with Anglophones saying they'd been marginalised by the French-speaking elite, which dominates Cameroonian politics. There's also dismay over the apparent collapse of a potential path to peace. Last month, Canada said it would be mediating between Cameroon's government and several Anglophone movements, only for Yaoundé to reject this shortly afterwards. Well, Samuel Ikomiseko is a major figure among the separatists. He sees himself as the leader of the internationally unrecognised Ambazonia state, though in the divided and divisive world of separatist politics, this is rejected by others. I asked him what the prospects for peace are in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon.
We cannot talk of peace unless the aggressor, in this case, the Republic of Cameroon, is ready to dialogue with us. They have locked themselves in a logic of war. They're in the military option, and they believe that they can kill their way to normalcy. So I cannot really answer that question. If they are not ready to come to the table with the invitation of the international community, then they are not. They're just buying time to continue killing their way to a possible normalcy that is impossible.
Should that dialogue come mediated by Canada, as Canada itself has suggested? Yaoundé seems to be rejecting that possibility.
You know, the mediator cannot self-elect. The parties involved in the conflict should elect a mediator. They should endorse a mediator to be one. Apparently, the way things have turned out, Cameroon is saying that they did not give Canada the mandate to mediate. We did not give them either. So we did not participate in any shape or form in that gathering because Cameroon, that is fighting and killing our people, was absent. So we said, okay, when it becomes serious enough that Cameroon decides to send a representative of that government that is killing our people and somebody to head that delegation that can report back to their president, then we will be part of such an initiative. Otherwise, that was coming just 2 weeks after they declined the offer of the Swiss, the opportunity given by the Swiss, by the international community, that they pretended for 2 years to be in favor of, that they endorsed in the first place, the Swiss-led process. 2 weeks after they withdrew, then this charade was created in Canada. And Canada was not patient enough, did not follow the procedure, did not learn from the Swiss to have insisted that certain conditions be met by Cameroon to prove that they are serious this time, that they are not just going to waste their time as they wasted that of the Swiss, but they took upon themselves to convene a meeting that did not rise to the level of a mediated dialogue.
President Biya recently celebrated his 90th birthday, half of that at least really in charge in Cameroon. There's so much talk in Cameroon about who will follow on from the president. Do you think that there's really no focus on resolving the problems of Anglophone Cameroon because of that, in part?
I think that for a long time now, there has been a vacancy, a power vacancy in Yaoundé. Every time you hear them say, upon the high instructions of the head of state, because all their instructions and orders and decrees these days, when they sign them for a while now, for more than 2 years, they preamble it by saying, by the high instruction of the head of state, to tell you that the man is not there. There's nobody called Paul Biya who is in charge, who is aware. We saw him in Washington when he was compelled to come to the United States to attend the U.S.-Africa Summit. We saw somebody who was in an advanced stage of dementia, completely disoriented. He did not even know where he was. He was asking, I didn't ask for to speak or to be here. Who are those in the hall? You saw that clip. That's to tell you exactly what has been going on in Yaoundé for the past 2 to 3 years. So these people who are surrounding him, who are already positioning themselves for the after Biya, their sole concern is the after Biya. They're not there to solve Biya's problems. They are there to position themselves for the after Biya. And then this call of coming to meet us on the table cannot be made by a subsidiary. It has to be made by the president, who is unfortunately absent,
and meanwhile,
who doesn't have his mental capacities.
And meanwhile, violence in Anglophone Cameroon continues, yes, from government forces, but also from separatist forces. For example, accusations that separatist forces killed 5 members of the Cameroon Development Corporation, CDC, recently. Civilians continue to suffer.
It has not been part of our practice to just go into any place, even if those people are acting contrary to our orders, and then spray bullets like praying mosquitoes. That has not been our modus operandi. There are 4 actors that are active in the war terrains of Amazonia, and I should make this clear. There are 4 separate actors. Criminal elements can come from both sides. And yes, they can be from our side. But that has never been our style. When people go against our laws, many times they have been arrested. They have been taken and then released.
Samuel Ikome Sako there, the separatist politician and figure. Should point out that Cameroon's president, Paul Biya, and his supporters would reject those allegations.
All right, finally, gentlemen, we're here to begin this highly anticipated discussion. Unfortunately for us, we've had some delays because our system had some challenges. Undaunted News recap started late. We also had a defense briefing that extrapolated more than we anticipated, and we would have to start about 1 hour 15 minutes late. It's important that we send out that apology, especially to our people at the home front who are getting close to 9 p.m. Ambazonia time. We were just listening to an excerpt of the president's interview with James Kopner of BBC Newsday. And the president, once again, represented Ambazonia with his full chest, if I may say so. Barrister Timbesea, good evening and welcome. Maybe I should start with you today.
Well, thank you for having us once more. Thank viewers for listening to us. Thank Ambazonians at the home front. Thank everybody for coming to this educational program.
But perhaps you want to I come a little bit from your image so we can see, yeah, this is much more beautiful. Amazonians like to have a feel of that eloquence. Yeah, go right ahead, please.
I was say, I was saying thank you for having us once more. Thank Homefront. Thank every participant. Thank every viewer for this educational program. We hope by the end of the day, viewers, followers will go home with something that will encourage them if they have been discouraged, something that will add more power to them to do more than they had done ever before. We're on the battlefront, and the battle is not going to be won on one day. Victory is progressive. And so have that in mind as we educate ourselves and move on. Thank you once more for listening. Thank you for viewing us.
Thank you. Yes, Barrister Fro. You're welcome. Good evening. I know you've been facing some difficulties to connect. Today, you would have to connect with your mobile device, which is not giving us the image that we would prefer. But I think it only explains the kind of person you are. You will go any extra mile to make sure you can serve your people. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Paddy. Thank you. I have had a series of problems with electricity in the building where I live and the connection, the internet connection. I am coming to you through my phone. Thank you, Ambazonians. Uh, I thank you very much for Ambazonians all around the world, especially in the home front. We are here once more to communion with you and to indicate to you that we're at the winning phase of this struggle. And we have a lot to talk about. Thank you very much, Paddy, for inviting us once more.
Yes, let's get into the discussion. Let's start the meal. The teaser was the president's interview with BBC. You heard a president that was fully representing the wishes of his people. There's been excitement all across our nation, home and abroad, with people feeling like, oh yeah, this is a leader and he knows what the people wanted. You heard a president that would speak with a lot of audacity. He said Amazonia was not represented and Amazonia never mandated Canada. We've spoken exhaustively on this discussion, but it would appear that as the days unfold, the appetite to hear more about it or to be educated about it and Amazonia's position keeps increasing. Barrister Tim, you would have a president who looks at every individual that is Amazonian born that participated in what he calls the Canada Chariot, saying to the world, Amazonia did not participate, and Amazonia never mandated Canada. That's amazing. What do you think?
I think what I get from there is this. It's not always, I'm not getting you.
Go ahead. You're the
We
one
cannot.
speaking. I mean, you are the
Okay,
one
I was
speaking. The
saying
floor is
that
yours. The mic is yours.
I was saying that the president got it right, and I was trying to say that it's not always easy to have 5 seconds, 5 minutes of the international press, the BBC, the Voice of America, Deutsche Welle, or anyone. These are foreign correspondents. They have very limited time for you. And once you have these few seconds allotted to you have to deliver the message that you want it to go out. Because they are different from CRTV, they are from the local press. And so when the president has the opportunity and delivered exactly what they should take home, three simple things. Yeah, we did not take part. We did not mandate Canada. Yaoundé was not there. And mediators don't self-elect. They don't choose themselves. That's a simple message I go to the whole world. Because after Canada, after Switzerland, another one will come. And so the three principles will still apply. The three parties, the two parties or the parties must elect an acceptable mediator, wherever it is. Secondly, the both parties must be on the table. In this case, we were not. The parties were not on the table. And we've said it before, whatever thing happened in Canada was a holiday. It was a jamboree to meet and greet friends. There's nothing wrong with that. But that can never be said to have been any negotiations or any attempt to negotiate. Thank you. If the Canadians forgot anything, which I think they did not forget, they didn't do their homework well. They didn't do their homework well to know that, as he says, the way the Swiss did theirs, to know when the parties are on the table. If you don't know the parties, first you must know who are the parties to know whether they're on the table or not. And so if they didn't do it, we'll just hope that the next phase, which is coming sooner or later, will come. There will be another phase for negotiation. Again, be it Canada, which I doubt, be it Switzerland, whichever, China, whichever that comes in, will have to meet those principles. And as he said, otherwise, they will think that they can kill their way to success. Those are key words. They cannot kill their way to success. Nobody in the world, very few, have killed their way to success in war. Even after World War I, World War II, they went to the table to discuss what to do to end the war. So nobody's going to kill his or herself to success. I think those words are very, very meaningful. They are very, very educative. And I think he got it right. Thanks.
You see, one thing that is sweet about this killing their way to success, the president was barely proving that we know the purpose of their delay. The delay is the hope that perhaps they will manipulate one and intimidate the other and really kill their way into some success. But this is something I like us to look at very closely as we look on that strategy by Cameroon, which we know is a constant, is the fact that the president seemingly didn't see those who were in Canada as representative enough of the peoples of Amazonia. That's instrumental to me. That was my take home. Barrister Fu.
Paddy, thank you very much. The world knows who is the leader of the Amazonian people, the Southern Cameroon's Amazonian people. The world knows, including La République du Cameroon and Canada. When the Canadians didn't see the president of the Federal Republic of Amazonia represented by members that he has appointed or he himself was there, it should have lighted a bulb in the heads of the Canadians. La République du Cameroon was very clear that they were not in Canada. They didn't mandate anybody to act like a facilitator or mediator for them. So the president, in his 2 to 3 minutes on BBC, laid bare exactly the official position of the people of the Southern Cameroon's Amazonia. And it took just about 1 or 2 minutes on the international press. They give you 1-2 seconds, and if you don't say what is reasonable, that's your business. I think that the president adequately represented the views of the Southern Cameroons. The so-called Canadian meet did not have the representatives of the République du Cameroon, and they did not have the representative of the Federal Republic of Amazonia. Everybody knows, including the international community, that the ADF or AGOFC and the others who were there have been declared a terrorist organization around the world. And Canada should have known that. Those who went to Canada should have known that the mayors and councillors from La République du Cameroon, represented by certain Anglophones from the northern zone and the southern zone, were in Canada. What was the mission? Was it a seminar on decentralization, as some people think? What was it? And I will give you my take on that, Paddy. And my take is that La Republique pulled out of the Swiss stocks, and the world was so shocked. And in order to pacify the world, in less than 2 weeks, they organized that charade and brought some, I don't know what to call them, to come and represent Ambazonia in Canada. When, in fact, La Republique was not represented. And in fact, the Canadian ambassador in Yaoundé informed our president that La Republique would not be there. And the president said that is a bridge to nowhere. And we were not there. When I mean we, I mean the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Therefore, who were those people? Who were they representing? The president has given you the answer. Now, another thing that we are not talking about is those who killed our people in Chico. The president was quite clear on that. In this whole struggle, you have
We're going
criminal
to get into
elements.
that, but now that you've gotten into it, you can go right ahead.
Yes. There are criminal elements from La République du Cameroon, and there are criminal elements from our side. Those who killed our people in Tico were not the restoration forces of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Therefore, those who did it were criminal elements because they were masked. We didn't see those who killed, and we are not. Listen now. Let me finish.
The interesting part is that all those
from La
criminal
République
elements are sponsored by Cameroon.
Yes, that's what I was coming to say. The criminal elements sponsored by La République du Cameroon, who are operating in our territory and in their territory and in their army, they were masked and came and slaughtered and murdered our people. That is not our modus operandi, like the president said. The restoration forces don't kill our civilians. If they suspect you as a civilian of ours, that you are not respecting the orders of the Federal Republic, they will take you in, question you, and release you. And that has happened several times. We do not kill our civilians, no matter what. So what I'm trying to say is that the president took less than 2 minutes and put the case of the Southern Cameroons in recent times. That is the Canadian talks and what happened in Chico in less than 2 minutes. And that was commendable. That is the leader of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, and the world knows it. Nobody in this world can pretend that you don't know Dr. Ikome Sako, who is the president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Who in this world does not know that the IG of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is led by no other than Dr. Ikome Sako? So that is the message that came out of that short press briefing. Thank you, Paddy.
And interestingly, the president had about 7 minutes. That's exceptional because when we were communicating with BBC, the slot they had for every interviewee was going to be 4 minutes, maximum 4 for 55 or something. They said they cannot exceed for an individual. And the arrangement we made was our president, we're not talking about any individual. I was very clear with them. Our president cannot have 4 minutes. There's a president coming. If President Biya was coming for BBC, you have an exclusive interview and you will not give 4 minutes. If you had Obama, and when I insisted, he kept on saying Dr. Sako, I said President Sako, until before the arrangement concluded, he said, yeah, President Sako. So at this time, we'll get that interview across. That was very instrumental. You see, Barrister Team, Barrister Fru has just introduced us into another level of this talk. And that was part of the president's interview. And the president tackled it exceptionally. You would have an individual who was supposedly the spokesperson. He's a spokesperson, anchorman now. He is president, anchorman, everything combined together. Comrade that would look at his forces. Let's pretend for 1 minute to say these were his forces, and he stands on a public platform to declare them terrorists. His words were not cautioned, were poorly calculated. They pierced through the hearts of every Amazonian like sword. It's unfortunate. Some have concluded that he is just dull. Some, like myself, believe that he is just dull in combination with the fact that he is also compromised. What would you depict from that nasty incident?
Let me say this. Before I go to the nasty incident, let us go back again to this Swiss thing, because it's something that is going to be useful to us for tomorrow. You see, negotiation is not as simple as people think. It's sometimes complex. And often, the one who is choosing to be the negotiator is a stranger. He's not a Cameroonian. He's probably not even an African. And he's been asked to mediate in a problem thousands of miles from them. And so there are principles that you follow, which must be followed in future. Compare the Swiss-led initiative to the Canadian, whatever thing you call it. The Swiss-led initiative had two components. The HD had a role. What is the role of the HD? They are facilitators. What do they mean by that? They identify the parties. Because in a struggle such as ours, like where there are so many people who front out as parties. But not every party has the same strength. So it is the role of that expert facilitator, not the mediator yet, to talk to the people, size whoever is there. What is the strength of each? If there are 6 groups, call them groups, following the same course. They don't have the same strength. If you invite 5 and the 6th is not there, and the 6th is the most powerful, the man who can score the shots, who can deliver what you want, and you go without that person or without that group, you're wasting your time. And so it's not enough just to say, oh, well, we've got 10 Anglophone groups come to the table. We've got 5 and one did not come. Now, the one who did not come is important. The Zimbabwe thing would not have gone anywhere without ZANU. In the Cote d'Ivoire, for example, there were 6 parties, but they will not even do anything without the Force Nouvelle, because they are the one who are going to score the shots. They are the one who could put an end to the war. And so that's negotiations 101. They do this work behind to know who is who. It doesn't matter if at the end of the day there was one delegation for Amazonia. Even if he brought everybody with the delegation, there are people there who count. Let Choyaba come with his own group. Let Kwanga come with his. Let Nisanu come with his. And then there are people who are there just to fill the table, because at the end of it, they are gone. When do we ever hear about any other party in Zimbabwe other than ZANU? ZANU Patriotic Front. But there were so many of them on the table. And so the negotiators have to do this. They do this behind the screen thing, which our brothers and sisters seem to call it pre-talks, which they went to Canada in a group to do. That doesn't happen. Then back to the issue of what Christian said. It's not for me to judge. All of us know that as a strategy. We have seen, for example, the Yaoundé troops murder our people, burn down our villages, done things that nobody could deny. But we have not seen their political leaders come publicly to condemn them. They always defend them, and they accept the honor at the last minute, and they accept it on their own terms. Well, this thing was wrong, we'll punish the guy. And they never ever punish the person anyway. So, as a leader, you don't go on the public square to denounce your own people. Yes, they might have done it, but you don't pretend that in your fighting team, everybody's an angel. But the way you punish or you deal with the recalcitrant ones is not on the public media. I've not seen the Americans are always fighting wars everywhere in the world. They have never denounced their fighters anywhere. But when they come back to this country, they are punished for violating the rules of law. But America will never go take the front line to say, well, our soldiers did this and condemn them. It doesn't work like that. That is the most tactless thing somebody can do as a leader. And so let the people judge for themselves. I think if that was done, it was a sad error. It was what no normal person would do. I don't need to be a president to do that. If you, Paddy, sat here, you're not the president. If on this program you choose to denounce one of our own people publicly, we will say you're not fit for the job. Because it is not Paddy sitting there, you're talking on behalf of a people. And so that is how it is. If we want to take leadership, we must learn the rules of leadership. If we want to take command, we must learn the rules of command. Again, our fighters, they're like Cameroon fighters, they're like American fighters, they are not angels. I've seen Israelis burn down places. No Israeli government has ever come down to condemn them. But at the end of the day, when they go back home, they sanction them. Some of them are even dismissed from the military, unknown to the public. Some of them go to jail. So it is so tactless to do that. If anybody ever does that, you need to learn the skills
And
of
of course,
leadership.
even Cameroon, La République du Cameroon, has never, on their state TV or any proxy television, condemned an act by the. We have seen their soldiers, and there is yet no evidence that Ambazonian-born or fighters loyal to Ambazonia actually did the act, because we consider DDR agents as not Ambazonians. We consider Cho Ayaba forces as not Ambazonian forces. And Barrister Fru, you would have the word Ambazonian Restoration Forces being tapped by a man who supposedly, or a few days ago, was spokesman, actually saying, hey, this is a terrorist movement. He's literally, that was the interpretation of all he said.
Look, Chris Anu is a madman, because even La République du Cameroon has not pointed a finger at the Ambazonian Restoration Forces after that incident in Tico. That incident in Tico was orchestrated from the method of how La République du Cameroon has been committing genocide on our territory. The same pattern was followed in killing our people in Tico. You saw what happened in St. Francisca. You saw what happened in Ikondo Titi. You saw what happened in all the other places where genocide was committed on our people. The same method that La République used is the same one they used in Tico. And their motive for what they did in Tico is to let the world classify the Ambazonian fighters. They don't like, I've never heard La République talk about the Ambazonian Restoration Forces. Their general word are Ambazonian fighters, they are terrorists, and so on and so forth. For Chris Anu, no, we all know that Chris Anu represents La République du Cameroon. For Chris Anu to call our forces terrorists without a shred of evidence, it shows that he is a madman. Because anybody who comes to the network, any network in the world, choose his words before saying what they say. Nobody, including La République du Cameroon, has pointed a finger on our restoration forces. Like the president said, in this war that La République declared on us, there are criminal elements set up by La République du Cameroon. He did not say set up by La République du Cameroon, but I'm putting it that the criminal elements, beginning from Ayabacho down to the Atanganji boys, and so on and so forth, have been set up by and financed by La République du Cameroon. What they did in Tico was for the world to tag us as a terrorist group and then declare us a terrorist organization. They have tried that all along. They have tried that everywhere. It has not worked. We lost more than about 6 of our people unnecessarily in Tico. That was tactless on behalf of Chris Anu to come out and lay an accusation on on our people, on our fighters, and claim that they were terrorists. We now begin to understand for who Chris Anu is working. La Republic itself would not say that, but they have people that they are prepared to come out and say that. And Chris Anu is their leader. And he said that. Since he said that, I have been listening to all the audios to see whether any of those rock elements will say the same thing like Chris Anu. And I'm very sorry for him. I don't know how he will end up, but he should know that we know that he knows those who La Republic set up to kill our people in Chico. Otherwise, he will not come out with that kind of accusation.
So from your narrative, it is a master calculation to declare us a terrorist group, and Chris Anu
Exactly.
to be a
Since Chris Anu
mastermind.
has not been able, yes, since Chris Anu has not been able to learn, yes, since Chris Anu has not been able to have even one fighter on the ground, he now declares all our fighters
even from his
terrorists.
own county, Lebia has been rejected outrightly.
And he has been rejected everywhere. He has nobody. Nobody is talking to him.
No, you can't say he has nobody, because no. It's an understatement to say he has nobody.
No. When I say nobody,
agents,
I'm talking.
Let me explain. He has some agents whom we heard from Reverend Assom that are on the ground, and they're actually taking money from people in the diaspora that they want to buy weapons. So he has some people.
Paddy, what I'm saying, let me clarify that. What I'm saying is that he has no fighters on the ground. He has nobody who is holding a gun on behalf of Chris Anu. Nobody. That's what I'm saying. But he has his surrogates like Asong, like many others and others who go back and forth, trying to confuse. Yeah, that I give it to him. He has those rock elements, but they are not fighters. He has no fighter. So La Republic has set him up. La Republic has paid him and set him up to come and call us terrorists, so that they can follow suit. It's not working for him, thank God.
Yes, his big crooked voice is actually not creating the impact that he thought and his employers actually thought. Now, Barrister Besea, Cameroon is seemingly using this strategy against us on many different counts. We saw that in Kumba. Now, even before the students were massacred in school, Cameroon already had videos available. Less than 30 minutes later, all the media houses who were conclusive with reports. My country people had a video to put emotions. There were no investigation, and we had the mayor or the DO, whoever came out and was shedding crocodile tears, trying to turn the population against the Amazonian Restoration Forces. This is a strategy. We know it's Cameroon strategy. It all falls under one big strategy, which is for divide and to conquer. That is how they treated us from 1961. But here is the point. Do you think, because war, we just heard from defense briefing, Comrade Zama saying that war is cruel and cruel tactics are necessary. Do you think, as a military strategy, Amazonians could think of employing or playing them in their own cards at any given time?
I think let us address it this way. You see, these things, the government is a government. It's not a government in space or on cyberspace like us. It's a government with government ministers, with embassies abroad. They are facing a crisis which they are trying to sell it to the world. I see most of those things, almost all that you and me know, are staged. They are made by the government in Yaoundé. But they are very careful. They want to see how the thing will affect the people, how people will react to their staged crimes. And there are so many. For example, take Mamfe, the money of the Mamfe hospital. We all believe was the government. But the government did not say that it was Amber Boys. They just kept quiet. They wanted the public to say it, and then they will fall on it. Take again the burning of the church in Mamfe. They didn't say that. They expected the bishop to say, oh, Amber Boys have burned our church. And then they will fall on it and sell it to the world. It did not happen. The Kumba incident was the same. And so when they tried to do it, you find a woman who came out at that Reverend sister and said, no, point of order. It stopped. It stopped. So to do those things, wanting people to buy the narrative, and they would use it to propagate their own political agenda. Let us take Ngarbu, for example. Ngarbu was done by the government. They expected it to affect Ambazonian fighters. But it failed, initially because the Bishop of Kumbo came out with a statement that, no, I have Christians in this place. These are the names of children who were killed. That was never done by Ambazonian people. So the story failed, and they had to accept it. They did not succeed in giving international coverage to paint Ambazonian fighters black. It did not work. So they do those things for those particular purposes. Again, on the communication issue, we listened to Paul Biya at the end of the year. He first started by congratulating their military for their professionalism. You think that Paul Biya, the presidency, does not know that there's something called Ngaribu? You think Paul Biya does not know that they kill people in the north and they admitted it? He knows that. But he comes out to say, well, our military is so professional. If we were to ask him a question, which there's always no room to ask, he would say, yeah, that happened, but that was a rogue element of our military, and walk away. And then we are punishing those guys. He would say that. You're not going to go down to Kondingi to see who's in jail. And so we are up to the task. That attempt, again, let's look at Tico once more, let's not forget. The idea of doing that thing in Tico was to attack our Amber fighters, our restoration forces. But they failed because the principal victim, the general manager of the CDC, who was on the spot, whose workers were killed, what did he say? He said a group of unidentified armed men. If you say, well, it is Amber Boys, the government would about it. It would have been public issue now. But the general manager of the CDC, for whom they worked, who was even in Tico himself, had been the Tico engineering department before going down to Bota, came out publicly to say, no, this thing was done by unarmed, unidentified armed people, which could fall in the definition of what the president said, criminal actors for different reasons. And so communication and strategy go together in any battle. If you miss any of them, you miss the whole target. Up to this point, on the basis of what I've just given, Ngarabu, Mamfe 1 and 2, Kumba, the government has not successfully sold the idea that those things are committed by Amber fighters. They have not. They have never done it. And so what did they do, for example? Like the one of Madame Mundi. They didn't even say that. They said, well, they liberated this woman from some place and staged a fly with a helicopter and then claimed that they released some pickup vehicles. It didn't say anywhere because everybody in the world knows that Cho Ayaba, who claimed to have adopted her, doesn't have a helicopter. He does not have pickup trucks. So it fell flat on the ground. And so learning the strategy, how to communicate your effort, is absolutely part of the leadership that we need. Whoever wants to claim leadership must have those two qualities: the ability to communicate, to defend your people, to communicate successfully in their defense, and in the promotion of the cause for which you stand. The president said, Amber fighters, our restoration fighters, are not in the habit of spraying guns on people, just spraying bullets to kill them. No, that is not our habit. That is good communication. That says to the world, if the ANC in South Africa had the strategy of spraying bullets on every white man, apartheid would not have even ended. They fought apartheid specifically on specific things. They didn't go on spreading bullets on every white man they found in the street.
Because of
And so
the
this
because
communication
of
is absolutely
the
important.
stability of the ANC in South Africa, maturity of the leadership.
Yes. So, like we said here before, last 2 weeks we said this. See, we are fighting a cause. But there's no reason why we should tell our gun go down to and gun down everybody because it's a francophone. Now, we target the military. If the military is hiding in your house and in the process of trying to catch the military will burn your house, that's a legitimate target. But we don't have a policy of going down to hunt people down the street, going to tap rubber, going to cut bananas, just for cutting bananas. That will make it a war crime because we are killing them for just being workers. And so I think, as far as this IG is concerned, as far as the president has spoken, I think he's on all fours. He has scored the goal. He has scored the goal of communication. He has scored the goal of strategic communication. That is what is absolutely important. Otherwise, you take bullets that are not yours. Thank you.
That I think you cannot be any right than just saying that strategic communication. It's not even someone trying to take bullets. I just would like us to look at who kills or who goes after civilian population. There's a litmus here that I feel that international media or organizations trying to investigate the truth might choose to be victims of lies. I give an example. The Amazonian Restoration Forces has they do have all it takes to brutalize French Cameroonian citizens in Amazonia. We're talking even about the Ntontus that are intimidating our own people during war in the market. Some of them they would like to go against the ghost town because of their businesses. The Burmese, the Pulus, the Amazonian Restoration Forces, if they are genuine, will not do anything to them, but will attack civilian public. This is the scandalous rhetoric that La République du Cameroon wants the world to believe, and some are actually believing Barrister Fu.
Yes. Look, we have made it a policy not to victimize anybody living in the Federal Republic of Amazonia during this crisis. If you look at the statistics, Paddy, I don't know of any Francophone living in our territory that has been touched by this crisis. If you look at it closely, I don't know of any Tongtu. When I mean Tongtu, I mean those Bamileke people who came and settled on our territory during the Makiza period that were touched in this crisis. Look, something happened in Bamenda, in the food market in Bamenda. Some Bamileke women who are regular sellers in that food market call on the gendarmes and military, and that resulted in the death of 2 of our restoration forces. These Bamileke women are well known, but nobody can tell who amongst them committed that offense. Our restoration forces investigated and they could not come out with anybody who committed that offense. Nobody was arrested. Nobody was harmed, but we lost 2 of our fighters. That is to tell you that the Amazonian Restoration Forces carry out their investigation before they do anything. Before they arrest you, to question you, they must carry out an investigation. If that investigation is not yielding fruits, they will arrest nobody. Look, La Republic of Cameroon is fighting with civilized people who don't brutalize civilians. Those living in our territory, as well as our own citizens, are considered civilians living in the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. And the objective of one of the important objectives of the restoration forces is to ensure that they protect the civilians from brutality of the army. If you see how the army kills our civilians, they don't bother. They just open fire on when they see our children or our women or our old men or even young men. They go arresting people playing football like it happened in the corner. Look, we are putting the blame of the killing of our 5 civilians workers of the CDC on La Republique of Cameroon because those masked men were not from our fighting group. No, they were well prepared and well orchestrated and well armed by La Republique of Cameroon. That's why the president calls them criminal elements. And the way I understand criminal elements in this our struggle, the ADF is a criminal element. The Atanganji boys are criminal elements. My country people, them, it's a criminal element. All those are set up by La Republique of Cameroon government through their minister Atanganji. So let it be known, let the world know that we are not going after civilians, be them Francophones or Ambazonians. We go after La Republique of Cameroon, our enemy, the occupier of our territory, to take them out of our territory.
And there is a clear proof of that, Barrister Fru. We cannot elaborate any much because if Ambazonians had the culture of attacking civilians, I'm sure no Francophone will be living in Southern Cameroon today.
Exactly.
I'm very sure that no Francophone will be living in Southern Cameroon. So it is left for who has chosen to be a fool. Now let's get into something even more important. And Barrister Ghana will be joining us any moment from now. I think he has indicated so. The Department of Resource Mobilization has confirmed finance and resource mobilization with direct partnership with the National Treasury. They have confirmed that Award 23 begins next week, Saturday. Now, the draft is not new to Ambazonians, but the new method, the method is new, the strategy. The president is focused on drafting this year more the zones, and we understand that to neutralize the colonial geopolitical framework in our home territory, 3 zones were created: Savannah, Midland, and Atlantic. We need to talk about that instrumentalization employed by this government to neutralize colonial vestiges in our homeland. It's first of all a psychological warfare. When they invaded our national territory, they gave us new names. They segmented us into Northwest and Southwest, ignited rivalry between the two brothers, a segmentation that was created by them, called us provinces, later regions. I'm not denying our ethnic groups, but you have a part of the Widikum people are in number going down towards Kendem, and they don't see themselves as the Widikum, but everything about them shows these are brothers just so related, but they are so divided because of colonial influence. And the good thing after we restored our independence in 2017 was to do some renaming, some restructuring to govern. Before we get into the intricacies involved with this year's drafting these three zones, I would like you to come back with this refreshing discussion, Barrister Team, the importance of our new renaming or our renaming ourselves, restructuring ourselves for governance, and actually going ahead to sponsor it via different means.
Yes, I will address that, but let me say something back on what we said before we left. Say all these attacks, be it Tico, be it Manfe, be it wherever, they speak to something. They speak of insecurity. And in fact, on the government was always say, no, it's just a security problem. Well, maybe it is. Whose responsibility is it to maintain security? It is the responsibility of government. And if the government has become so ungovernable that mass killings, destruction of public places, churches, and hospitals would occur and go unpunished, then that's an indication that the government has failed. Because the primary responsibility of government is to provide security for its citizens and its property. If the government of Yaoundé has not provided security in Manfi to guard the hospital, to guard the churches, in Tico to protect, to bring those people to book, or anywhere else, then they must admit they have failed. Whatever their reason, they have failed. And so if it is because of the war, they have to come back to the drawing board to be sure that those things are ironed out. And the only way to do it is to come to the negotiation table, negotiate how to end the war, and then the security will return to the citizens. That said, let me go back to the question you asked. See, we are victims of colonialism. First, by the Western Europeans who came to us, the Portuguese, the Germans, the French, the British, and so on. And after a new neo-colonial system that was brought to us by Yaoundé, and the most important thing they did, that they thought was so strategically important, was to divide us into two regions. Call it Northwest region, Southwest region, or provinces. What they did was not even new. The theory they put behind it is what made it worse. Because before 1970, in fact, the British Southern Cameroon was always divided into two zones. That what they call Cameroon province and the Bamenda province, which was something almost equivalent to the present Northwest and Southwest, they call it. But they did not bring tribalism to bear on it. Once they divided it into Northwest and Southwest and made it political, how did they make it political? They made sure they appointed their own agents to be administrators of those areas. Amongst them, a certain, Oben Peter Ashu, who saw the doctrine as come no go, to ruin us, to destroy whatever was left of us as a people. It was important, it was more important that we change that narrative. The narrative of Northwest, Southwest, call it region, call it province, call it anything. The perception that they're giving was that there's something called the choreography, and the other one, Sawa call it whatever thing we call in the south there, which were meant to satisfy their political egos. Now with the present zoning, which is irrespective of whatever thing they call the northern and southern zone or the northwest or southwest, helps us to destroy that idea of divide and rule. Some people call, oh no, we're all from the northwest. Oh, we're all from the southwest. Oh, that one are graphene, come no go, and so on and so forth. So I think that carving out that the president has done into three different zones solves that problem probably once and for all. It defeats the purpose for which it was done. I remember before 1992, before AAC won, there was this idea of regionalization, 10-state federation, was championed essentially by the people of the Southwest. I was one of them. There was something they called Suela there. I was Assistant Secretary General of Suela, which came out. The whole idea was to have a 10-state federation so that it could not be part of the Northwest. That was the idea behind it. I'm saying that I was there. I was the Assistant Secretary of that thing. But that thing was put to rest during AAC 1 when we met at ORC as Suela and resolved that whatever thing AAC would decide for in the name of Anglophones will bind the Southwest, as they call it at the time. The issue of state federation based on Northwest, Southwest, other regions had been killed. It was killed. That's why even AAC, with all their recommendations, they came out to talk about a two-state federation, a return of the two-state federation. In other words, West Cameroon, former British Southern Cameroon, to be remain as intact as it was, not to be divided into fractions to satisfy the ego of Yaoundé. And so I think what we've done now, by and large, goes to solve that problem. Thank you.
Yeah, but Barrister Fru, you've always been very severe when it comes to this whole divide and conquer, southwest, northwest, and they're persistent even when they know that it is a calculated attempt to split a people and to weaken them. Today we are
Ye-
turning the tables, restructuring, changing the entire geopolitical framework, and we are helping it to move forward. If you want to talk on that, you can talk on it because Barrister Tim has spoken on it already elaborately. But I want us to look on this interim government strategy of the three zones, how in a long and short term could help us to neutralize what the colonial masters implanted, first of all, in our minds and on the ground.
Yes, Paddy. I don't know how young you are, how old you were when Oben Peter Ashu, the then governor of the so-called Southwest province of La
Yeah.
République du Cameroun in Boya, called people from the northern zone come no go. You see, the interim government has killed that mentality from the restructuring of our country. You may well know that Oben Peter Ashu comes from Manu. And according to the restructuring of our country, Manu is not anywhere near the Atlantic zone. Manu is now part of the Midland, just like Paul Tasson and Yaoundé is shedding tears because we have included Libialem in the Midland and Mezam and Momo. That is the Midland of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. That has killed one, tribalism, and two, this so-called divide and rule regionalism that La Republique introduced in our body politics when during the process of our assimilation. They made it purposefully divide us so that the Southwest will not agree with the Northwest and so on and so forth. In the old days, which Satim was just talking about, you had the Bamenda province and the Victoria province. But there was no such thing like tribalism because the people were intermixing, intermarrying, and some of us grew up in the CDC plantation and became what we have become today thanks to our association in the southern zone, which is now part of which is now the Atlantic zone, and part of which has been brought to create the Midland zone,
The
which
Midland.
includes Mezam, Momo, Manu, and Libialem. That has solved a lot of tribalistic tendencies that La Republique has inculcated in us over the years.
Yeah.
That has brought a lot of coexistence, and that does not stop our people from moving from one place to the other. If you want to know, Paddy, majority, if not 90% of the CDC laborer workers comes from Donga and Manto. CDC used to go up with trucks to go and carry workers from Cambe. We generally call them, in my growing days, Kaka people, but they were actually from Cambe, and they were very useful in CDC because they were the production workers, they were the laborers, they did everything, they cut the bangals, they work in the oil mills, they were laborers everywhere. But because the inland
And they were
population,
experts in ferrying timber as well. They're experts in
exactly,
ferrying those.
because yes, the inland population was more than the population at towards the coastal region,
Yeah.
and that brought about harmony and production. CDC became what it became, the largest producer, the largest employer of people after government, because of the organization that existed in the yesteryears. But when Bia and Ahijo did what they did, they created this tension between the two regions, our brothers in the southern zone and the other people in the northern zone, and up to the extent that a son of the soil from Manu permitted himself to be calling another part of the country the Camp No Go. That has been laid to rest by this interim government. So that is what I
That
was
that
going to add.
that's an amazing expose. You see, I understand that leadership vision or visionary leadership envisages immediate consequences or impact or results and long term. And
Yeah,
based on colonial agenda, it was imperative for that structuring at that time. I know one of the objectives of the interim government, one, not all, of the objective is first of all to eliminate or neutralize that colonial setup that we understood it was a strategy to achieve an aim of dividing to conquer us.
yeah,
But looking at Ambazonia during this time of war and the future that is to come, have we, you gentlemen are advisors to this government, you definitely take anything that is calculated, visualize it, project it. Have you looked at the possible long-term problems that could be created with this new geopolitical setup? I'm talking to you, Barrister Team. Have you been able to process it? Or is it just a perfect way of going about it? Now we're neutralizing or destroying one. It could be we are destroying one bad thing, creating another bad thing. If
No,
not, what is the
I
unique
think what
way we can go as people?
I think this is the issue. It's not enough to say mid zone, northern zone, or whatever thing you call it. The administrator, the political leadership, has to show a course that people are free to live where they are. People can win elections where they live. They can handle political office wherever they are, no matter where they were born. And so these are the policies that would just stop other nonsense. And let me give you an example. I don't know how far you know a place called Econa. Econa, I live there. If there are about 50,000 people in Econa, or 10,000, 9,500 are from Momo. Momo is not part of Fako, but they have lived there all their lives. They've sent their children to school there. And Econa, again, is part of Moyoka. The whole of what we call Moyoka subdivision If there are 200,000 people there, 180,000 are from other parts of the country. And so if you go to Moyoka, since the creation of Moyoka Council for the past 20, 30 years, the mayors of Moyoka Council have not been Moyoka people. Ethnically, Moyoka belongs to the Balongs. And part of it is Bakwere. But they have never handled any political office there. And let me give you this illustration to show it. 10 years, 20, 15 years ago, the SDF won the council elections in Moyoka. It was their duty, the leader of the list, to become the mayor. And this leader of the list was not a Balong man, was not a Bakwere man.
It was from
And so,
Libialem.
yes, that was from, but the government policy said that, well, you must bring an indigene. You must put an indigene there. And so this gentleman won, his list won the elections, and the prefect of Limbe would refuse to come and install him because he was not an indigene. So he waited and waited, he was not installed. He wrote a petition to the Minister of the Territorial Administration in Yaoundé. He said, well, I won, the SDF won, this is my list, I'm the leader of the list, I'm the mayor, and the prefect has refused to install me. And this is what the minister wrote back. If you are the mayor, it is because you were elected. Your being mayor is not based on the installation by the prefect. So he refuses to come and install you, go into your office and do your job. And so that ended that nonsense there. Again, the policy of government trying to promote this divide and rule is what has made the thing worse. We're talking about Open Peter Ashu. Open Peter Ashu was not working it in the interest of anybody. He thought he was trying to sell a cake that would promote him as an individual. And so when he said, oh, come no go, in his mind, he was referring to the people of the Northwest, call it like that. But it turned out that come no go was more than that. Because not long after that, 1995, Open Peter Ashu himself faced the problem. There was a problem somewhere in a Kata Bafia there. They were buying the people who had bought farms there. And the Bakwere people, well, you have to go. Because you are come no go, you are not natives of this place. And they went back to Open Peter Ashu. This is a life story. I didn't know what to do. The people who were being sent away from Ekata were not Westerners. They were the very buying the people that he had been trying to protect. And so what did he do? He recanted. And I'm told, I'm not witness to this, I'm told that his last days, before he died, he went to the Catholic Church and confessed that this is doctrine of Kamnago. He had heard so many people, he did not think it was the right thing to do. So it's not enough. The policy that we put as a government are the policies that will dispel all that. If you are anywhere an Amazonian, you live there, you can win elections, you can win office, you can be elected into. If you can vote there, why can't you be voted there? If you can vote for a mayor, if you can vote for a parliamentarian, be a man from Kambe and you're living in Victoria, I can vote. Why can't you be voted in? And so that is what it is. That nonsense, I think, will go. In the colonial days, as I'm going to give the example, there was the northern zone and the southern Cameroon province and the Bamenda province. The government did not promote that as a division, as a policy. Otherwise, Foncha would not have won the election in Boyat to come become the prime minister and dismiss defeating Indele, the Bakwere man. In the government of Foncha, the majority were from the Northwest, called it the Bamenda zone. But just that was because they were numerically bigger. It's not because they were Bamenda people. And so the policy that we put in place is what will affect.
And the election that brought Foncha into office really did not consider regionalization and or restructurization and all of that. There was no consideration. It was all about a people
Yes,
trying
and let me
to
just
vote
let me add this
someone
to
into
add
office.
there. We're told, I think it's recorded, at the time of Ndele, where he was the premier, SML Ndele, his private secretary was somebody from the Northwest. He didn't look for Bakwemon to come and be his private secretary. So that idea of coming from east or west was immaterial. It was competence. If you are competent to do a job, you are given the job, notwithstanding your tribe, notwithstanding your ethnicity. And so I think that's what we'll replicate here. I remember, again to land here, remember a certain Reverend Asson just 2 years ago. Well, if her complaint was that, well, President Sako was not distributing jobs according to the Northwest and the Southwest, he was looking for their own share. That did not fall anywhere. And so that her story just died. We shall not distribute positions based on ethnicity. We shall distribute positions based on ability to perform, deliver wherever you are.
It would appear that Barrister Fru would like to contribute in that. Please, Barrister
Yes,
Fru.
Paddy,
Yes,
if
sir.
you look at what the interim government has done, the Atlantic zone is the smallest of all the zones.
Yeah.
And some people have been asking why. And I will tell you an answer. If you look at this, the equatorial zone, almost all of Boya, all of Mutengene, all of Ekona will be taken as the federal capital territory. What is left? But may you want to also know that given the fertility of the Boya Mountain and the presence of CDC in the equatorial zone will always remain the most populated part of Ambazonia because people move to where there's economic salvation, where they can find jobs, where there are developments, where they can easily survive. If you look at the Savannah zone, Savannah zone seems to be populated, but it's not that populated because of the economic impact. There's virtually very little economic impact as of now, even though the Savannah zone remains one of the richest part of Ambazonia. But for now, it is still very sparsely populated. So people tend to move. So this politics of the interim government has solved two major problems. One, like you said, Paddy, an Ambazonian is an Ambazonian wherever he lives, and he can run for election and do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
Number
that's a
two,
policy you have President
yes.
Sakwa said a couple of times.
Number two, people should be allowed to move freely and live anywhere they want to, and to eschew tribalism. Now, let me talk about the Southern Cameroons of yesteryears. The KNDP and the CPNC of Dr. E.M. Ndele, KNDP of John Foncha. Do you know why John Foncha won the plebiscite and put us where we are? Most of those who voted for CPNC came from Wum and the present day Bui and parts of Kambe. You may want to know that the KNDP stronghold was mostly in the present day Manu and Meme and Fako. And that is why Dr. E.M. Ndele lost in his attempt to take us to Nigeria. I'm just giving this as historical facts to show you that the Southern Cameroons was a state that did not promote tribalism, did not promote regionalism, and took every part of its territory, very important, and involved everybody. We will not believe that. You will not believe that Dr. E. Mendeles, most of his votes came from the present day Munchum and the present day Bui and Kambe.
I would say that Barrister
While
Phil, there
Mezam
was
and Manu
inclusion in
betrayed us,
governance.
while Mezam and Manu and Meme betrayed us and took us to La Republique du Cameroon through the KNDP. So that is I just brought that for us to know that there was no such thing as tribalism. In
Yeah,
fact,
you know,
majority of
I
the
think,
overseers in CDC were from the from the Savannah and the present
yeah,
day Mezam or whatever,
yeah,
and the
I'm thinking
majority
that,
of the laborers were also from there,
yeah, I'm
and
thinking that there
they
was
grew up
inclusion.
to yield managers of CDC.
I'm thinking that there
So
was inclusion in governance, and the negative aspects or the negative inclusion that in tribalism was not existent in the true southern Cameroons that has just been restored. And this is a process. You see, we are fighting a war that has to do with psychological warfare. And
yes,
Cameroon
Paddy,
knows that.
before you go there,
Yeah.
may I clarify something?
Please go
The
ahead.
present day Atlantic zone is going to take most of what you call the federal government territory, and that federal government territory will bring all those who are working for the federal government to occupy all of the Atlantic zone, and everybody will be brought together to work for the country. That is, there will be intermarriages, intermingling, interdevelopment, and it will spread. Politics will spread the rest right through from Atlantic to Savannah.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay, this is it, Barrister Tim Beseha. Very quickly, because we have a few more minutes to get into the real discussion. I pray that Barrister Ganavalanta meets us there, because that is where we need him very, very much. Very quickly and very briefly. The way you gentlemen are giving an appraisal with this new geopolitical structure that is being used to prosecute this war, it would appear this some kind of a perfect model. Did you anticipate that when we finally get to Boya, have recognition, we will maintain this format? And if yes, why? Barrister Tim, please.
Well, for me, if you're asking me, I would think that will be maintained. Could it be different? Of course, depending upon the politicians of the day who will get power. But I don't see them changing from what we have now, because what we have done now is intended to cure a problem, which I think it is curing it. To take any other measure more than that or less than that, it will probably not be useful. But if you're asking my opinion, I don't think they will change. I think to add to what Bryson just said about the capital, when I came to Boya in 1983, the mayor of Limbe, Victoria, was living in Boya. He was living in Long Street and drove down, and he was still the mayor of Victoria. Was not something looking for somebody to be living down there. He had won the election, and he was the mayor. And so this idea of tribalistic feelings, ethnicity replacing performance, is what has killed us. Where we were in Boya again before I left, there was a time we wrote a proposal. Because from Boya, for example, to Moyoka is about 15 kilometers. From Boya to Tiko is 10 kilometers. From Tiko to Limbe is 15, 20 kilometers. These are only 1,000 kilometers, 10 miles apart. And taxis were applying these very places at the same time. We suggested, look, let all the taxis that apply these cities, or in FACO, register in one pool. So you can run from Tico to Moyoka, you can run from Buya to Limbe without any problem because they are the same people. But for ethnicity thing, for whatever thing, political thing, they did not buy it. Was that a good option? No, not buying it was just punishing the people. Because you will pay a taxi from Tico, come and drop in Motengene, stay for 30 minutes to look for one going to Buya. Come and drop in Mile 17, stay for another hour to look for another one going down to Moyoka. It did not help the people. It does not help the people. So breaking down those village barriers, those ethnic barriers, should be the goal of our future government. How we do it, we may improve on what the present AG is doing, but I'm sure we're not going to retrograde. We're not going to go back. We shall only improve.
It is actually
Yes,
the
Paddy.
goal. Okay, it is
Paddy.
actually the goal of this current governance, and you are advising the future not to do anything less or even more because it won't be necessary. But it's that through you seemingly
Let me
want
tell
to
you
add.
what. Let me tell you what will not change. The present counties will not change. And I said that with caution because what is going to happen is that the delegates of the Constitutional Conference will be drawn from all the 13 counties. And they will be the ones to decide whether these zones that were created to prosecute this war will stay or not. I cannot determine and I cannot say with certainty that that will happen. It would only be discussed and agreed in the Constituent Assembly. That is the first thing that is going to happen when we get to Boya.
But that
And
again
and
brings
and
us to a new argument, Barrister Fro. It brings us to a new argument because the point here is this. The point is this. Get this. The point is some are feeling that the counties and LGAs, the way we have them, is just a renaming of structures that the colonial masters created. We have all the LGAs are probably subdivisions that we call LGAs. Counties is what they want to,
so be it.
divisions and
So
so
be
on.
it. So be it. So be it. The colonial master started it, and La Republic took it and perfected it, and it is our land. We have a right to adopt or not to adopt what is existing already. So, in order for us not to get into chaos, we will maintain the present counties where all the delegates will be drawn, maybe equal delegates from every county. I don't know the formula, but that is what is going to happen for that constitutional conference to be held in peace and harmony, and decisions taken as to whether we create 3 states, which is the present 3 zones, or we create more states or less, will depend upon what that constitutional conference will come out as a blueprint for the constitution that will be voted by everybody. I am not going to sit here and say that when we get to Boya, we will maintain.
I want to spend a little bit 5 more minutes on this because the idea here, Barrister Team, let's have some 5 minutes on this before we get into the draft. The idea of this whole restructuring, the main idea from what you've been saying, Barrister Team, is to make sure that whatever was calculated or calculatively put in place by colonizers or recolonizers should be neutralized. And if we have to maintain the structures that are, what are the elements that will be introduced in it? Is it just these regions that will help us fight some of these structures that were put in place by colonial masters for an objective we know?
I've said again, the important thing is the name. It's not in the name of the structures. It's what you
Yeah.
put into it. Just remember that in 1961, the whole of British Southern Cameroon was made up of only 6 counties. the whole place. There were 6 divisions: Victoria, Kumba, Mamfe, Bamenda, Wum, and Kambe. These were what they call counties or the divisions of British Southern Cameroons. Just 6. In 1964, it progressed from 6 to 9 when they created Bui, they created Bui, they created Ndian, they created Momo. And today we have 13. So that is not what is important. The important thing is, what do you put in to constitute this, and what are the guiding principles under which they operate? That's what is important.
Exactly.
I think I got what I wanted there. I will cut you there so that we can move on to into the federal draft. That the president is using the mobilization of resources, is using this framework as a strategy to draft the federal government. If you've listened to the president, the vice president, and the government presenting this new way they think the draft should be handled this year. The vice president was live on Thursday and speaking with a lot of confidence. This has been a thought well process, and we are now at the implementation phase. What are we going to expect when it comes to not just mobilizing these resources? Let's get on the ground, mobilizing the resources in the diaspora mostly, and implementing it on the ground. How better would it be than what we had previously? Barrister Fru, let me start with you.
Yes, Paddy, up to now, from 2020 up to now, we have been drafting and giving to tiers of government, from county to LGAs, to carry out the war effort. And the federal government has been let bare with nothing to go, to nothing to do, nothing to go after. Now, the federal government this year has decided through the interim government to come in force to reinforce the gains that have been registered by the tiers of government, and to ignite those tiers of government that were lacking behind. And in order to do that, Paddy, we need, you see the president is using the word, this year is a year of acceleration. You have just put on the counter here the winning phase of this struggle, which means that we need a combination of everybody, all hands on deck, including all Ambazonians around the world, to raise money both for the federal government, to give the federal government, to empower the federal government to the extent that they can carry out projects in any county that is lacking, or any county that they need to give it a push. Number two, the counties will also be drafted, the various tiers of government will be drafted in the middle and given the normal resources that they used to get. And in order to end the year, the federal government again will come back and draft, so that whatever has not been properly done will be repeated, because the resources will come in. It is so important. I'm calling on all Ambazonians to know that this year's draft is the most important of all the drafts we have had so far. And because we are going to accelerate the procedure of sending the enemy, the occupier, out of our territory. More especially, Paddy, let me emphasize this. More especially as the occupier himself is suffering now within himself. We should not relent to take advantage of what is happening, to make sure that they leave our territory before their cancer crosses the river to infect any of us. That is this year. It's very important. And if you doubt me, watch very carefully what is happening in Yaoundé today. I'm not even sure that that regime will not collapse anytime soon within this year. I am not sure. Because what is going on is so serious that we need to put our hands in our pockets, get out the resources, put it in the hands of our restoration forces so that they do the work and push these people out before they ever cross the
Burn
Mongo
them
to meet
out.
us. Push them out of our territory by the barrel of the gun. Look, we have said we are no longer interested in forcing La Republic to come to the table. Number one.
There
Number
is not
two,
a policy.
we are waiting for countries that voted for our independence and those who believe in us,
To
even if they didn't
recognize.
vote, to recognize us. So we are no longer, and the only way for us to prove our mantle is through firepower. And we cannot have firepower without the resources that we can do now and put in the hands of these young men and women who are giving up their life for us.
That
So
that's
that is the
that's
way I
that's
see. That is
quite
the way I see this draft.
that's quite an energetic way to market the draft that's coming on Saturday. There is no doubt
Correct.
that Ambazonians came out in their regalia and numbers and wealth and health to draft for every county, and the federal government was kind of stifled of sufficient resources to execute federal government strategy. And that empowered to a very great extent some vicious leadership at the grassroots, because the Amber Peace
Yeah.
Plan was objectively to enhance shared governance. Well, we have good leadership in place now. The government is not just concerned, it's not afraid to empower its own people. But barrister team, we we have tried federal marshal before. It didn't work. Perhaps because the federal government did not have capacity to manage and control. We've tried a lot of federal projects that couldn't happen. The government has managed with what people are now accusing the president, they call president's basket, to sustain two counties. I'm not talking out of assumption. I'm talking out of available data, information, that the two counties that are vibrant today, more than every other, I'm talking about Buingo, Kituja, the Buingo, Kituja axis, is sponsored at least 65% by the president's basket, which we're going to have maybe the federal basket, if you want to call it federal basket, starting Saturday 25th. Now, what do you think we will achieve? What is our anticipation from all of these studies, this examination we've made? How do you think that whatever we're going to do will present better than what was before? Barrister T.
Yes, there's a saying in English that all fingers are not the same. We have 13 counties. We cannot deceive ourselves that we're all the same now. Some counties are more vibrant than others. Some LGAs are more vibrant than others. Some counties and LGAs are more affected by this war than others. So the shortcoming of what we did before was that we sought to make the counties and the LGAs exist in isolation. They were branches of the tree without the trunk. The trunk is the federal government. Unfortunately, we did not have a way at the time to say, well, if, for example, in Mozambique, you have $10 million sitting there and we need 1 million to go to India, the president could order that they should give it. There was no instrument for that. So we need now, as we always needed, a strong central control where they can carve out something to support Bui, as you have said, not just from a small penny of the basket, to support Ngok Kutunje or any other place where we have distress. The war has different fronts, and we have to confront them with different means of doing it. You see, the field marshal probably did not work because it was not well planned. Shall it be done again? Of course, it has to be improved upon. We tried to create this. You remember the $135,000 scam? It was part of the program to bring things together, but it was not even the federal money. It was money contributed by individual counties and LGAs. And so if the money had been ours, solely ours, that is the federal government money, that would have had a different impact. If a county had coughed out $10,000 in that project, out of the 20 that they had in all, they coughed out 10 and it got lost. There's no way that county will recover it easily. And so with a new draft, it's going to cure that defect and make us understand, as I've said earlier, that all fingers are not the same. All war fronts are not the same. We cannot win all the battles at the same time. I said earlier that victory is progressive. It will be difficult one day, we'll just turn around and say, oh, we won Bui, we won God Kotinje the same night now. So this issue of drafting afresh with focus on the federal government and departments is going to help us a lot to overcome the difficulties that we had. Imagine that if we had this type of project, the so-called money we put in trying to fund Field Marshal the King's projects that we never knew where they went to, because we don't have a federal oversight of it. That might never have happened. And so I think this is a good thing doing. We have learned from the past. We have to improve on our strategy, and this is what we're doing. Strategy, militarily, financially, and otherwise. And so I think that's one of the best things that we'll get out of this new draft.
Yeah, Barrister Fu, react quickly. We have a caller online.
Yes, let me react. Paddy, I want to open the abscess. You know, the former drafts, especially the 2021 draft, 22 draft, the 2022 draft was very, 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 very disappointing in terms of applicability. We drafted a lot of money, gave money. Mezam drafted the highest, Momo followed by the highest, and a county like Bue drafted very little. Now, Paddy, tell me, if you look at the performance of Momo and Mezam, what does that tell you? These are giants who have not been of any use to us. They have drafted a lot of money and we are not seeing the results on the ground. Momo has nothing to show. Mezam so far has nothing to show. But those were the top. If that money, take that just those two counties and give that money to the federal government, and the federal government put it in projects in Momo and Mezam, you think Mezam will still have nothing to show or Momo nothing to show? That is where the draft to the tiers of government has showed its limit. Because those counties that didn't get plenty of money are performing more than those who had large sums of money. Look at Manu performing very well, but they didn't draft much. Look at Bui. Bui had very little money, and they are doing very well. Okay, look at Libya Lem. Even though Libya Lem, with all what has happened, Libya Lem didn't used to have that much, and they made use of their money, and they did very well.
Now, Barrister Fu,
I cannot say this. And look at
something. Is it all about changing the method of the draft, or actually getting into these regions and counties and see what could be the problem to fix it? Is it all about the draft?
Let me finish. The federal government is looking at Ndian. Ndian is performing in spite of the very little draft. The federal government will prop up Ndian. The federal government will prop up Mezam and Momo the federal government will prop up most of those counties that are not doing well. The federal government, given the coup plotting effects that have taken place in Libialem, the federal government will come in and install the red dragons in Libialem, and
I think
you
the
will see.
federal government is not even interested in resurrecting red dragons. I know they
No, no,
cannot
no,
name
no, 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 no. I'm
or
just
have
giving as
the
an example. I'm just giving
yeah.
as an example. I'm not saying that I'm not telling you that the federal government will do that, but I'm giving like an example to tell you that the drafts of the tiers of government have not yielded the results that we anticipated at this time.
Extent
So
that
it was
would
time
have
to
been
change
not
strategy.
pleased.
It was time to change strategy and bring the federal government into the mix, so that the federal government would be empowered with the resources that will give them to galvanize and awaken those counties that are sleeping and support counties that are under pressure, like Momo and like Ngokutundia and Bui and Donga Manto. So that is
And
exactly. And listen,
I think Barrister Pro
there is FACO. There is FACO that is sick.
is a major stronghold where we
Yes,
need to.
we will have to do something about FACO, and I'm predicting that FACO will be the last battle. We should
I'm
start
thinking
stop.
that
We should start.
there will.
We should start
I'm thinking
building. We
that
should start
from the
building the foundation.
explanation, Barrister Pro, from the explanations that we
Yes,
get from government, from the high office of the president, I hope we can have an interview with the president before the draft, or maybe on Thursday we get the vice president to come again and explain the framework clearly before the draft, so our
yes,
Amazonians get to understand this. But you realize that the objective of this change of method to draft is also to help enhance equitably or proportionately all the counties that are involved, because we're not fighting just for a county, we're fighting to win the entire Amazonia. Before I get back to you, we
exactly.
have a caller on the line. Caller, you want to speak now?
Hello.
Yes, Amazonia can hear you.
Yes, thank you, Director, and thank Barrister Frujonso and Barrister Biesa for the time that you always take to come and educate our people. I am here calling to endorse the federal draft because I have a number of reasons. The president is the commander-in-chief. If there is any success or failure, they have to blame him. We often hear fighters from home front, they say, president has not given us money, How can the president go and give you money that is stuck in the hands of your LGAs and county chair people? So we have to move forward with the federal draft. Because if money goes into the federal account and something is missing, we can follow up. For example, we have a case in court right now, and that some people, they are already paying back the money. Had it been that money was in the hands of the LGA people, whosoever, you can't hold them. That is one of my own reasons here. A lot of LGA's chair people, the county people, defense chairs people, they collected money. They were having meetings, secret meetings with Ayuk Tabe. Ayuk Tabe instructed them not to fund the revolution. So they took the money and turned into coup plotters. All of them, they are there with the Chris Arnold. But I want to give thank you to Ngokitunja, Buidi, Manu, Ndonga Matu. And I also need to say that Momo is a disgrace. Mezam is disgraceful. Yes.
It's from
We don't even see their chair people. We don't even hear anything. We don't even see nothing. We have mayors, we have just enablers parading left and right, going everywhere. All this. I also want to encourage Amazonia people from all the 61 LGAs. Those who invested your money, the LGA chairperson, defense chairperson, you who contributed the money, you come together and you file a lawsuit against those people. They need to pay that money to us because some of them have bought their houses in Bamenda. The LGA, for example, we are going to organize ourselves to file a lawsuit against any person who took our money. All the counties, all the LGA should go like that. Those who took money for the federal marshal, those who took money for Momo marshal, money for Fako draft, we have to follow up all those monies. Yes, that is the reason why. Take for example, people stole money and they became coup plotters. If we allow all of them to be collecting, the new ones to be collecting money today, some might have that idea that, oh, this person took money and when, what happened to him? Let me take mine and put it in my pocket. I will not do anything. They are not going to do me anything. That is something that we have to take
into consideration.
Now, I want to inform the restoration forces, the restoration forces that people who went to Canada, they sold you to La Republique. They are no longer ambassadors, they are La Republique agents. They should not talk to you. Do not pick their calls. Don't even collaborate with them. They will pretend to say that, okay, go this place and take money, go this place and take money. Before you go to La Republique, will come and ambush you. Those who say that we don't have any flag, no country like Amazon, like Chris Ano. Those who say that we will lie to you people, like Mark Barata. Those who went and killed people like Scott Judson. Those people who went to Canada, the Marietta and all the rest, they have not even taken time to tell you people. What were they doing in Canada? What did they sign in Canada? Who attended the Republic people in Canada? Then how can you listen to these people again? Thank you. Amazonia shall be free. No matter the manipulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ochiba Nelson, for that wonderful contribution. I would say there is really not much. He is another marketer, a salesman for the federal draft. Now, the president said something remarkable, which I like to say as we round off this discussion. He said, we are simply just naming them Savannah, Midland, and Atlantic, but it is, in essence, it is the federal capital draft. And the draft will be determined based on our ground game. So wherever we have something to do, we will implement. We just want to have that, we just want to be viable to carry on federal projects. This is quite inspiring. With that reaction, Barrister Tim, what would you have to say?
Yeah, before you go on, Paddy, let me correct something. Let me correct something first. It's not federal capital draft. It is
No,
federal
draft,
government draft.
Federal government
draft. Federal government draft.
Thank you very much for that correction.
Yes, I was trying to say that the document that is before us speaks for itself. The first bullet point on that proposed draft states this: project focus with immediate use on ground zero. Project focus. If it is project focus, it means a lot for the federal government. It gives power to the Defense Department, which oversees the county's defense and the LGAs. And so if it is project focused, headed by the federal government, it means we shall strategically decide what is important from the top, implement it with the support of the LGA where it is found, and move on, which is what we want, which is what we ought to have been doing. Because having a federal defense ministry without the authority to do anything was meaningless. What was the difference between the defense secretary and the LGA security people if you could not conceive any project? So the draft we're going to do, as it is put there, is going to be project focused. And then if it is project focused, we'll put the resources where they are needed most, use them the best way we can, and turn to the next project. Many of the projects may be found in one county. That's immaterial. Some counties may not have a project. That's immaterial. The important thing is that from the top, we see where there's need. We conceive a project for that area. We enforce it with the means that we have at the federal level. If we had all these monies at the federal treasury, probably we would have done something for FACO. Probably would have done something for somewhere else. That's a fact. But we have to agree that we cannot pretend that the coup plotters did not cause us destruction. They caused us a lot of destruction. We are now recovering with better strength, with better strategies and better intelligence. And I hope we are going to improve. We are improving. We'll do better than what we were before the coup plotting issue started. That's the truth. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's all about us doing something that's going to yield much fruit. And I like the fact that you want to always read documents, and there's an aspect in this document which I will read with your permission so that we round up our discussion for today. It's unfortunate we could not get Barrister Ghana. He's always so busy. He actually promised he was going to join, but there are indications that it will be difficult. So you have, it says that when the five bullet points given there, it says receiving the previous Ambazonia World Draft Award at meeting of the February 9th, 2023 highlights the following: demonstrate highest membership numbers in LGAs and counties with very low redemption of, okay, those were reasons the president gave. But let's move ahead. It says, hence, the need for us all in caps, to draft our federal government more than last year. The need. So what are some of these needs? I want to spare them out clearly so that we get to understand. It says, with such experience, your government opted for a recalibration. It says, on home front, due to the collapse of some LGAs and counties, the government opted to revive the stranded Amazonian restoration forces rather than allow them to vanish. In the diaspora, Award 23 is thus reconstruct, is a reconstruct to be. One, project focus with immediate use of funds to allow for continuous actions on the home front. Draftees include counties, LGAs, and Amazonian citizens and sympathizers. Anticipated highest redemption of pledges, not numbers as in previous years. Unveil everybody in LGA or county by drafting and redeeming pledges, no room to hide. Allow the federal government to utilize the funds on strategic needs on the home front with capacity to relocate resources in accordance with the trend of needs. So the appeal goes thus: action required. County chairpersons are requested to consult their leadership teams for a meeting date with the Department of Finance and Resource Mobilization to discuss modalities for forthcoming Award 23 federal government and county drafts. Contact the Department of Finance and Resource Mobilization with agreed dates and time on or before 16th February 2023 at 10 p.m. I think that meeting has passed. Available meeting appointments with the Department of Finance and Resource Mobilizations are Friday 17th, which has also passed, Saturday. So there's a meeting that is taking place tonight. I'm sure that meeting should be rounded off by now. And also there's a meeting tomorrow, Sunday 19th February 2023, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Every Amazonian volunteer who is seeking to be a helper in this movement can possibly be there. The document has been published on our websites, and it is also available in hard and soft copy publicly for your diligent survey. This is an amazing thing to behold, Barrister Fu. What do you think?
Yes, that is the reasons behind the drafting of both the federal government and the tiers of government. And to conclude, Paddy, I am calling on all of us. Saturday, the 25th, we'll be drafting for the federal government, and I don't know which of the zones is it. It's the Savannah. Paddy, help me here. Is it the Savannah zone that will be drafting on Saturday for the
I think
federal
we're doing
government? All of
Savannah. I think we're
huh?
doing Savannah, and I understand that Savannah,
Yes,
the
Savannah.
cabinet we got Kitunja, and
Yes, Savannah, and all Ambazonians around the world. All Ambazonians around the world. When we limit it to Savannah, we're talking about the structures in Savannah. But every cabinet member, every member of the House of Representatives, every member of the judiciary, of the ethics committee, every structure in Ambazonia will be drafting each time the federal government is drafting. For all the time that the federal government will be drafting every month, all these structures of government are called upon to draft, to come in and draft. And I'm not saying anything, Paddy, but I will be present in all of them. And I'm calling on all of us, whoever you are, wherever you are, as long as you believe in this fight. This year is a year of acceleration. This year is a crucial year because our enemies are collapsing and we need to make them collapse faster than they think. And
it's
we
like
need
when you're
resources to
fighting
do that.
and you hit the person is down. It's important to hit even harder. You increase the force
Yes,
of your
it's
blow.
important. In fact, it's important to hit in the forehead so that he passes out. So that is what I'm saying.
Okay.
This year is a year of acceleration and a year that our enemy is collapsing and it will collapse. I am predicting its collapse. For us to be able to take the opportunity to free ourselves, we need the resources right now. If all Ambazonians listening to me know that this is a crucial period in our struggle, and we have to do what we have to do to get these idiots out of our territory.
Something
Thank you, Paddy.
inspiring about this whole thing is, according to the program provided, I would say tentative program, which is almost conclusive, provided by the government, is a strategy that gives ample drafting of government, LGAs and counties inclusive, almost all year round. In fact, the
Yep.
president does not want the tides to get low at any point. If you look at the program, we're going to just be hitting the ground like continuously, because from the dates we have here on February 25th, we're doing the Savannah zone. On March 18, we're doing the Midland zone. In April 15, we're doing the Atlantic. In May 27, we're coming back to Savannah. In June 17, we are in the Midlands and the Atlantic. Right after that, July, we're getting into Bui, Donga, Mantung, Mezam, and Meme. We're getting into those counties. In August, we're getting into the Federal Capital Territory. We're getting to Manuboyo, Momo, Ndian. In September, we're in Menchum, Ngoka Tunja, Kupe Mani Nguba, and Lebialem. And then we're coming back to the Federal Capital in October. So there is no stopping us. It is indeed a year of acceleration. When we get back into that Federal Capital, we're going to take it till we end the year. So Christmas, there will be very precious gifts into La République du Cameroon. Barrister Fru, I think this is quite, Barrister team, this is very inspiring. What do you think? Just the view of it creates excitement and anticipation. We cannot wait to see things happen.
Yes, it creates that. It is absolutely important, very, very important. See, I don't know how it happened. It starts with the savannah. At the time we were drawing out this program, I'm not sure that we realized that the hotspots of today are in the savannah, Bui and Gokotunje. So it is no mistake. And there's also said something. The enemy is collapsing. Is it true? Yes. Are there signs of it? Absolutely, there are many signs for those who can see. 4 years ago, nobody could have dreamt that women in their chang shoes will move 10, 15 kilometers from Moyuka, from Ekona, and liberate their sons in the captivity of the criminals in Moya with their guns. These women had no cutlasses, they had no spears, but they forced that thing to yield. And so that should be an encouragement to let those of us, all of us who are drafting, not be affected by donor fatigue. We're winning, and the signs are all there. If people could leave a corner on bare feet, go up to Boya and challenge the lion, you and me, sitting thousands of miles away, who can challenge the lion with our pockets, who can give something, a little by little, drop by drop, creates an ocean. So the spirit is good, the approach is perfect, the timing is the best. Thank you. We're not going to be affected by the fatigue. We're going to be encouraged, especially by the women from the corner. Women, they were not men, women who moved up and subdued, not the duo, they subdued the government commissioner there, the commandant. These people have guns and everything that they have. They made them to yield with their bare mouth. And so we shall make them to yield with their cutlasses, with their rubber guns. Machine guns have no more role in this battle. Determination is the final goal. Determination is our final weapon, and we will succeed. Thank you.
That was a much more beautiful way to conclude the discussion. Very powerfully, we had our mothers. The president thinks, okay, next time, the vice president thinks, hey, listen, if we even equip every household, if every household in the former British Southern Cameroons, the Federal Republic of Amazonia, is having at least an AK-47, those colonial talks will not only disappear, they will not mount the audacity to defy our sacred places and to pick our people and desecrate or disrespect, brutalize and maim them with impunity like they do. That's where we're going to. And in this year of acceleration, great things will happen. I want to thank you very much, Barrister Fru, Barrister Team, for joining me in this discussion. We'll have a rendezvous again sometime next week. I'm going to consult with the Office of the President based on some things they are supposed to do. Perhaps by 6 p.m. Amber time on Monday, we should be educating the public on some things related to this and much more. But right after this break, I'm coming up with very special announcements. Just stay tuned.
Strong measures that will be taken to reinforce the security of the population. But my sisters, my daughters, my mothers, I want us to take our destiny in our hands. We have played a lot. We have covered the killers a lot. When I asked you before the speeches, who are the killers? You say you don't know. Thank God. The Honorable Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly remind you certain facts. And after her intervention. You cannot say that you don't know the killers. So repeat after me. Who are the killers? We You don't know? Yes. Even after what Honorable Lifaka said, you don't know who are the killers? The killers are your brothers. The killers are your children. The killers are people who are living amongst you. And you don't want to denounce them. You don't want to denounce them. Then you will continue over them.
Anybody watching me right now, I want you to clap, to give a hand. Just clap. You know, if you're watching, keep clapping and just share some love for these beautiful Amazonian women who have ridiculed this uncircumcised Bulu who calls himself the governor of whatever La République du Cameroon has created. I just applaud, share, you know, just keep giving them some love. You know, it's a beautiful, what is such a beautiful message. I really didn't want to bring Barrister Fru and Barrister Team again because they would just love to talk on this, but maybe I should get them for a few minutes so they can share with us before they go this beauty for just two minutes each. Just look at how sweet it is. Our women are not intimidated. They have grown past the age of being manipulated. And they're looking at colonial talks and telling them, whatever you want to do is a waste of time. Nobody is going to fall for it. That is so sweet. Barrister Fru, Barrister Tim. You, as fathers, we want to talk to these women.
Yes.
We don't know.
I tell you.
That's the news. We don't know.
I tell you, Paddy, the power of the population is higher than the power of any gun. Look at that stupid fellow who calls himself the governor. Look at how he was ridiculed by women from Ikona.
He was ridiculed.
He was ridiculed by women from Ikona. How can you say the killers are your brothers and sisters? And you saw the response from the crowd. You saw the crowd, the response from the crowd. He should be ashamed of himself. And they had no choice but to release all our children that were taken from Ikona.
Period.
I just want to inform you that I know that I heard that they have all been released because I have somebody reporting
because they released some, and we heard about 2 were still in captivity. So now we
the 2 in captivity. The 2 in captivity were finally released. That's what my informant told me. I may be wrong, but at least they were released. Yeah. To the chagrin. To the chagrin of the governor, the so-called Okala Belai, or they call him what? He has the audacity. It is just that our FACO restoration forces do not exist anymore. They should have taken him down because he's a trespasser.
They exist, but they need to be empowered. They have been disintegrated by some
of
the things.
Yes. When I mean exist, I mean,
and we are hoping that they're going to make us proud.
Exist in his power and the power that they had before.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Because Okala Bilai can afford to stand there
and try to manipulate or intimidate them. But as a team, look at this. From the very body language and diction of this Okala Bilai, or whatever kind of name the Bulus have given to him. From that very moment he was speaking, you could actually see the agenda of some of the arbitrary arrests, the intimidation, the random killing is to turn the people against the movement and to intimidate them or manipulate them to give them intelligence. information that they will use against their own children. And the mothers are smart. Barrister Fru, please, you have 2 minutes. We've got to go. Oh, Barrister Tim, sorry. You have 2 minutes.
I think I take a little bit of a difference. Okala Bilai and Wondoman is praying for his transfer to move somewhere else. But if you listen to Okala Bilai, he was quoting of a certain MP there. Pray what the MP has just said. That MP is not going to go and transfer. I don't know where he will take shelter before this very woman who told her your explanations are just false. Okay, Okala Bilai is there. He wish had been transferred long ago. But our own internal enablers, MPs, or whoever
Yeah.
stood there trying to explain things, are the ones who are buried in hell alive. Because whereas they can escape to Yaoundé, their children and their grandchildren will live there forever. I didn't even know that you were bringing this clip when I said 4 years ago. Nobody would have believed that woman will move on foot without even a
Yeah.
propaganda we started with and force the colonial
You were
governor.
not afraid of
The
what was
colonial
going to
governor is
happen.
not being strong and force the armed people. Those armed gangs in Boya, they don't even obey the governor.
Yeah.
If they can be forced to release people, we say God is working for us. There's time for
Amazing.
intimidation. There's only time that there's also much a human being can take. We have reached the
Yeah.
maximum, we can take no more. And so, like it or not, we're at the end of the road. Either
Yeah.
Okala Belai, like Peter Oben Ash, whoever works for this regime, either you find your exit way through the back door or take a helicopter and go away. And there are many of them. I'm told, reliably informed, that people in Mosonge, Bakwere, our own brothers and sisters, our own fathers and grandfathers, they no longer even live in Victoria where Yaoundé people want to come and live. They have fled to Yaoundé. They have fled to Yaoundé with all the comfort that people want to live in Victoria and enjoy. He has fled. And a host of others. So shame unto whoever was sitting there and calling himself or herself MP. You have nowhere to hide. Yes, you may hide, but your children will have nowhere to hide. Your grandchildren will have nowhere to hide. Madame Mundi did not die, but I think she escaped from Bamenda after. Frundi did not die, but he visits Bamenda now with guns, protecting him. So there's a day of glory, there's a day of shame. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
Paddy,
you
just
very
1 minute.
much.
Paddy,
Okay.
just 1 minute. Just 1 minute
Right.
to follow up with what my learned colleague has said. I watched a video in where somebody is warning in Yaoundé, deliver the Minister of Justice to us, or you will not believe what will happen in this Yaoundé. I watched that video and I told myself the power of the population is more than the power of any gun or all the guns put together. Those
Yeah.
women have shown the same power that they showed, everybody showed on the 22nd of September 2017 has repeated itself through the women of Okona. And we need to make this year, a real year of acceleration, a year that, look, let me repeat myself. The enemy is collapsing and it's collapsing fast.
Faster
If we
than we
don't
even
act,
thought.
we will be caught in the web. So everybody should put his hand in his pocket and pull it out, and let's see how far we can go.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Barrister Team, Barrister Fro, for being a part of this wonderful discussion. It's been a beautiful evening, Saturday evening. I'm sure for those of you watching at home, from your faith and hope for the future has been revived. This is the only platform that has at some so prime our objective to internationalize our struggle, to educate our people, to promote our cause. We have no other business. That's our business. And we strategically do so. Cameroon is using every mechanism that is before them to dismantle us, But they are not only going to fail or are they failing, they will continue to fail. A few days ago, I announced to you that Undaunted is 1 year old, and that's a baby. You all is our baby. We want to celebrate 1 year. It has been a journey with baby steps, and we getting better. I tell them in the newsroom every day, listen, we are just starting. We want to compete, contend, defeat the barons in the business of making the news. And we are just starting. I want to seize this opportunity once again to thank all the donors of ABC Amber TV, club members, board members, patrons who have made sure that for at least a year and counting, the TV has not been shut down. That's amazing. That is a record breaking. It has never happened in the Ambazonian struggle since 2017 when Scapac came together and had SCBC into ABC. This is the first time for 1 year that we've had transmission unabated, undisputed, uninterrupted. This is the first time in history. This is the first time that we are having a newsroom functioning with a minimum of 10 stars, and nobody is seemingly willing to back out. And so we are planning, we'll be announcing the date after the draft starting on Saturday. We'll announce the date of the launching of this platform that God has given to us to use and to use judiciously. A lot of activities will take place. You've just seen the president is now on BBC. We want to have him on every available platform in planet Earth. Al Jazeera, CNN, whatever platform and whatever it will take. The people of Amazonia are determined. You have told us that you're willing to have our president speak on those platforms. Sometime this week coming, we'll have the president with Arise News. We are already working to have him on audio visuals again with the BBC, to have him on a video interview, an exclusive interview, if that will be possible. The arrangements have already started. We also would like to have an interview with the president on Al Jazeera, and that discussion has already commenced. In fact, I was in a meeting with some of their connections 2 days ago, and there are prospects that that will happen really very soon. It took the patrons of ABC Amber TV less than 1 hour to come up with 2,500. That is enabling what we're doing now. And with that sum, we are able to pay some who participated for the press conference and also to make arrangements for all of these things to happen. It's so inspiring, and I wish to tell all patrons and club members who donated out of short notice, thank you and thank you and thank you so very much. If you want to be a patron of ABC Amber TV, you can contact us. You know exactly how to do that. You can call either Madame Endele or myself, and we'll get to see if you can become a patron. The patron is a special group of Amazonians. There are not many, but they have positioned themselves to make sure that for no reason Amazonians will be cut off air. These are individuals who understand the power of the media, and they know that we can win the war effectively and quickly as we continue to ensure that this platform never goes dry. We have the eight ID. You've seen Ma Victorine, Ma Irene Ngwa, the Secretary of State for the National Treasury, Ma Victorine, who is the chairperson for Amber Land Humanitarian and Amazonia Foundation. These are women passionate enough to have us continue with liquid. When you are empowered, when a government, America is the world power today, not just because they have the most sophisticated military weaponry, but because America speaks and speaks bigger when it comes to the economy. In fact, New York is described as the world's economic epicenter. Everything in economy happens from New York, and that's in the United States of America. These women have decided in the National Treasury that the interim government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia will not be incapacitated at any time because of possibly not having sufficient resources. I'm calling on every Amazonian, be a part of this, be a part of history. If you look on our screens right now, the details are going through. Make your donations today. Do not hesitate to do that. Make your donations today. Endeavor to do your donations today. Go to the websites. They are user-friendly. Subscribe. Become a part of it. There's a reference that represents you. And there's nothing sweeter than you being a part of a war strategy that's working. Who else wants to be a part of failure? Do you want to be a part of the coopers who have failed? It took them less than 6 months to become bananas. They have failed. They have already disintegrated into like 5 different groups. The Marianta minority group, Yen Nanchop has a section. The man with many teeth, what's his name again? J. Carl has his faction. Maranta and Abongwa are struggling with their 2 families to see if they can keep something, some snippets. I'm also getting information that Egyawan is having his own direction. Then when you come to the annals, I shouldn't be the one to tell you what is actually happening. Well, I'm going to leave you with this video of the president so you can enjoy it once again. We will definitely need you as we're planning for this 1-year anniversary. We're going to make it more like a seminar. It's going to be a big occasion, and it will end with a press conference that the president, the Secretary of State for Communication, and possibly the Director General of ABC Amber TV will have opportunity to talk to the press. So we will need, it is a baby for Amazonia. Undaunted is the baby of Amazonia. As we celebrate, you know, there's something they say in my village: when you give birth to a first child, the way you celebrate that child, God blesses you with many more children. And so we're thinking that Undaunted should not start and end in English. Undaunted should be in pure, sweet Amazonian pidgin, not the standard of the Equinox and so on, but a standard of BBC pidgin news. We're thinking that Undaunted should not only copy the example of Wayon and spread globally in every continent, and possibly all the main languages, Espanol and whatsoever. When it comes to internationalization of our struggle, we are leaving no stone unturned. The way we're going to come together to celebrate Undaunted will make a determination if we are ready to have a second and third, and why not the 7th baby this year. Stay tuned. Stay with ABC Amber TV. I'm Tarh Paddy King. Until next time, God bless you. Have a great.
The conflict in Anglophone Cameroon rumbles on. In just the last few days, there have been reports of separatist fighters and workers for a state-owned company being killed and young men arbitrarily arrested, leading to protest. The war broke out over 5 years ago, with Anglophones saying they'd been marginalised by the French-speaking elite, which dominates Cameroonian politics. There's also dismay over the apparent collapse of a potential path to peace. Last month, Canada said it would be mediating between Cameroon's government and several Anglophone movements, only for Yaoundé to reject this shortly afterwards. Well, Samuel Ikomiseko is a major figure among the separatists. He sees himself as the leader of the internationally unrecognised Ambazonia state, though in the divided and divisive world of separatist politics, this is rejected by others. I asked him what the prospects for peace are in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon.
We cannot talk of peace unless the aggressor, in this case, the Republic of Cameroon, is ready to dialogue with us. They have locked themselves in a logic of war, in a military option, and they believe that they can kill their way to normalcy. So I cannot really answer that question. If they are not ready to come to the table with the mediation of the international community, then they are not. They're just buying time to continue killing their way to a possible normalcy that is impossible.
Should that dialogue come mediated by Canada, as Canada itself has suggested? Yaoundé seems to be rejecting that possibility.
You know, the mediator cannot self-elect. The parties involved in the conflict should elect a mediator. They should endorse a mediator to be one. Apparently, the way things have turned out, Cameroon is saying that they did not give Canada the mandate to mediate. We did not give them either. So we did not participate in any shape or form in that gathering because Cameroon, that is fighting and killing our people, was absent. So we said, okay, when it becomes serious enough that Cameroon decides to send a representative of that government that is killing our people and somebody to head that delegation that can report back to their president, then we will be part of such an initiative. Otherwise, that was coming just 2 weeks after they declined the offer of the Swiss, the opportunity given by the Swiss, by the international community, that they pretended for 2 years to be in favor of, that they endorsed in the first place, the Swiss-led process. 2 weeks after they withdrew, then this charade was created in Canada. And Canada was not patient enough, did not follow the procedure, did not learn from the Swiss to have insisted that certain conditions be met by Cameroon to prove that they are serious this time, that they are not just going to waste their time as they wasted that of the Swiss, but they took upon themselves to convene a meeting that did not rise to the level of a mediated dialogue.
President Biya recently celebrated his 90th birthday, half of that at least really in charge in Cameroon. There's so much talk in Cameroon about who will follow on from the president. Do you think that there's really no focus on resolving the problems of Anglophone Cameroon because of that, in part?
I think that for a long time now, there has been a vacancy, a power vacancy in Yaoundé. Every time you hear them say, upon the high instructions of the head of state, because all their instructions and orders and decrees these days, when they sign them for a while now, for more than 2 years, they preamble it by saying, by the high instruction of the head of state, to tell you that the man is not there. There's nobody called Paul Biya who is in charge, who is aware. We saw him in Washington when he was compelled to come to the United States to attend the U.S.-Africa Summit. We saw somebody who was in an advanced stage of dementia, completely disoriented. He did not even know where he was. He was asking, I didn't ask for to speak or to be here. Who are those in the hall? You saw that clip. That's to tell you exactly what has been going on in Yaoundé for the past 2 to 3 years. So these people who are surrounding him, who are already positioning themselves for the after Biya, their sole concern is the after Biya. They're not there to solve Biya's problems. They are there to position themselves for the after Biya. And then this call of coming to meet us on the table cannot be made by a subsidiary. It has to be made by the president, who is unfortunately absent.
And meanwhile,
who doesn't have his mental capacities.
And meanwhile, violence in Anglophone Cameroon continues, yes, from government forces, but also from separatist forces. For example, accusations that separatist forces killed 5 members of the Cameroon Development Corporation, CDC, recently. Civilians continue to suffer.
It has not been part of our practice to just go into any place, even if those people are acting contrary to our orders, and then spray bullets like praying mosquitoes. That has not been our modus operandi. There are 4 actors that are active in the war terrains of Amazonia, and I should make this clear. There are 4 separate actors. Criminal elements can come from both sides. And yes, they can be from our side, but that has never been our style. When people go against our laws, many times they have been arrested. They have been taken and then released.
Samuel Ikome Sako there, the separatist politician and figure. Should point out that Cameroon's president, Paul Biya, and his supporters would reject those allegations.
Wisdom for the Ambazonian quest with Bridget Muyang Fielding. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. King Solomon, Proverbs 4:7, KJV.
And if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. Apostle Paul, 1 Corinthians 8 verse 2.
We are only as wise as our awareness of our ignorance. The only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. Socrates/Plato. This wisdom is the altar of humility and success.
There is no wisdom for a nation at war to sink its own gunboat. It weakens diplomacy, is tantamount to capitulation and defeat. That is exactly what some so-called Amazonian leaders have done, asking fighters to keep low for whatever reason. This is surrender wisdom, and it has delayed progress for 2 years. Bridget Muyang Fielding.